Good morning. Here is a short story I wrote called A Tale Called It by Nedra Lee Prisk. That's me. In the year 1843, from whence a small wind did begin to blow, a breeze developed quite suddenly out of a seemingly nowhere. It blew in the direction towards an easterly way, then following its instincts, turned tail and headed west. The breeze continued on in its own way, as it sometimes did, until it reached a great wide expanse of Samgwan, which means water in Micmac. When it had gone as far as it could go, it made the decision to return to the place from whence it had begun. When it arrived at its beginning point, it made a decision. The decision was that, upon finding nothing of real consequence, heading southward seemed to make the most sense, and so it continued on its way. When it had arrived seemingly at the very bottom of the south, or leastways what it did perceive to be south, it found nothing, absolutely nothing. There was nothing there. What a conundrum, you might say. Or at least that was what the it was thinking to itself. What to do, what to do? What a conundrum. What kind of a pickle did it find itself in? Not knowing what to do next, it sat for a minute and began to think. It thought and thought and thought. It thought until it could think no more. Then, in the blink of an eye, it knew what it was meant to do. Deep, deep down, in the very well of its being, it knew that it was time to do the only thing it was meant to do, as it was very nearly at the end of its options. It turned back and proceeded to go north. North it was, and north it was meant to be. So off it went. Once it got to where it was going, a certain sadness descended upon it, a sadness that seemingly arose out of its nothingness, or out of nowhere, it seemed. At this point, upon reflection, it knew deep in its heart of hearts that it was a conundrum. The quiet and the solitude that it found in the north was screaming so loudly that it was deafening. The silence spoke volumes. It knew what it needed to do, and, making its decision, decided to do what it must in order to do what it was meant to do. And so it did the thing that it did best, which was to carry on, to continue onward in an ongoing way, back from whence it began, back to its beginning, back to the very start of its beginning. Making the way back was easy, as it really required no thought, only action. And this it knew it could do. There was no right or wrong. There was no correct or incorrect. No one specific way that was better or more solvent or even soluble, if one could imagine, than the other. And when, after a time, it found that it was right back at the beginning, at the very, very beginning, from whence it had initially begun, it was happy. It was so happy. It was so grandly and ecstatically happy that it started to spin and spin and spin, around and around and around, until it became a whirlwind. The end. Written by Nidra Lee Prisk, October 15th, 2025. That's me. All my relations.